All right, so what do you know? I'm here on the dedicated live streaming channel. I still ain't got this one monetized, but for whatever reason, I'm able to use this channel without a VPN, without getting you need to verify your identity messages. There was some kind of weird, there's unusual traffic coming from this network message that came up when I entered YouTube Studio to start this live. But then I switched my VPN on, refreshed the page, it went away, then I turned the VPN off and started the stream. And looking at my user interface on OBS, there's no dropped frames. There isn't the usual issues happening on the stream that were happening on the main channel. As far as drop frames and lag and stuttering, it seems absolutely solid right now. Looking at the stream health. So again, this is using it without a VPN. And the unusual thing is, I've been using a VPN to stream on in Costa Rica for like 3 years and never had any issue. But somehow when I come to Zambia and use a VPN and try to stream with it, there's loads of issues. Maybe it's because of Starlink, I don't know. Maybe there's an issue with using VPNs with Starlink in terms of streaming, I got no idea. But looking at the stream health here, again, VPN switched off, it looks great. So maybe this will be the move. Obviously, this channel isn't monetized. I want to get it monetized. So yeah, maybe the gods are pushing me in this direction, saying, yo, you need to start streaming on the other channel. That's what the other channel was created for, dedicated for live streaming. So let's do that. I guess nobody knows that we're streaming over here. Since there's 6 concurrent viewers, 2 people in the live chat. Big up Lawrence and big up Zach Christ. Interesting name there, Zach Christ. You want to talk about why you chose that name? Well, how about Lawrence Ave? Why did you choose that name there? And you may notice, and let me know what the stream health is like from your end, guys, because I'm looking at the user interface here on YouTube Studio and everything looks excellent. The stream quality looks solid. Doesn't appear to be any lagging going on. How is it for you guys? If it's solid, then this is what it's going to be. I'm going to be streaming on this channel, not so much on the other channel. Yep, Zach Christ says, stream is calm, no buffering. It's running good, yeah. So it seems like the VPN in combination with Starlink is the issue. There you go, Star Fox. Night flight wasn't fully booked. Discount tickets. Big up Anthony YouTube in the place. Got some people dropping in now. What's up? What's up? Yep, you can hear me clearly. It's all good. And you'll notice the visuals are different here. This is footage from my very long haul series of flights to get to Africa, where I now live. What do you guys want to talk about? You want to get into some boxing topics? So I'm going to do another video, a film study of sorts, on my Patreon. Oh, damn. It was lagging. For real? On my stream health, everything looks fine here. I thought everything was sorted. I'm looking on OBS. The stream health is good. I'm looking on YouTube Studio. Everything looks good. Because previously when I was using the VPN on the other channel, the stream health was looking crazy. There was loads of drop frames, all that type of stuff. But I'm looking on OBS analytics now. There's no drop, literally 0 drop frames. So it should be perfect for everyone based upon what I'm seeing here. D-Man said he didn't get any lag. So I'm gonna do a film study of sorts, which about something which really annoyed me, and that is the Mike Tyson fanboys. I've always been annoyed by Mike Tyson fanboys. But now, in particular, I'm annoyed by them after watching Mike Tyson Buster Douglas. Now, look, for me, Mike Tyson's one of my favorite fighters of all time. I'm a fan of him as a fighter and the impact he had on boxing, which was fantastic. Big up Liam Goff in the chat, aka G-Man. Big up, big up. But the fanaticism for Mike Tyson is just way over the top. So I was watching the Mike Tyson Buster Douglas fight, right? And there's loads of copies of it on YouTube. Loads and loads and loads of copies of Mike Tyson Buster Douglas. And I'm literally, you know, it's a normal copy of the fight, HBO broadcast. I'm watching it, and the absolute donut who uploaded that video, at certain moments of the fight where Mike Tyson's getting battered, he literally edits in a few seconds of some Mike Tyson fanboy documentary explaining, oh, Mike Tyson didn't train properly, literally in the middle of the fight. So it's going through uninterrupted for 7 rounds. Then in the 8th round, when Mike Tyson knocks Buster Douglas down, this guy like edits in some excuse making in the middle of the damn fight from a documentary. I was like, good God, man, these fanboys are terrible. Unbelievable. So, and yeah, he did that a couple of times in that fight. Just totally interrupts the action to put some little excuse-making excerpt from a documentary in there, and then the fight resumes. Flipping bizarre. So anyway, that annoyed me. So I'm going to do a little film study on that. And also, this moment in the first Mike Tyson Evander Holyfield fight, where Mike Tyson blatantly headbutts Evander Holyfield, and the commentators say nothing about it. It's unreal, man. So I'm going to do a little film study about those things on my Patreon page. I just uploaded a film study about a young American heavyweight prospect. I forget the guy's name now, but I just did a film study on him. I'm not particularly impressed. Somebody recommended I have a look at him on the last live stream I did on the main channel. So yeah, I just did a film study on him. The next one's going to be about Mike Tyson. I'll do it right after the stream. And the excuse making, but also giving Mike Tyson his flowers as maybe the most impactful, other than Muhammad Ali, maybe the most impactful heavyweight of all time in terms of his influence on subsequent generations of budding boxers and whatnot. And the way he's still relevant even now. Van Houten, thank you. Liam Goff, aka G-Man. Yeah, Van Houten. Somebody, in fact, on my Patreon post where I uploaded my film study on Van Houten, there was somebody in the comments who said, are you sure it's not Van Houten that was in the live stream recommended himself under a sock account? It might have been. Big up Pickles, big up Star Fox. And everybody locked in? Yeah, it sounds Dutch. Van Houten. What happened to Costa Rica? Well, Costa Rica was only ever a stopgap. I never intended to stay in Costa Rica permanently. It was only ever like a stopgap. I always intended to make Africa my final destination. D-Man says, where are you considering in Africa after Zambia? It really depends. I mean, if getting some type of permanent residency here or long-term residency in Zambia proves to be possible, if it's something I can do without spending a load of money and going down some kind of financial or, monetary black hole, intended to achieve it, then I'll just stay in Zambia for now. I like it in Zambia. It's nice. Star Fox says that, so the nomad is no more. No, I'll still travel. Let's say I make Zambia my base and travel from here to other places. If I can get some kind of residency here, maybe I'll do that. Because I love traveling about and I want to go to the Philippines, do some island hopping in the Philippines. That'll be cool. Anthony YouTube says, have you seen the film Him? It's about demonic rituals in sport. I guess you meant to say, I hope a lot of boxers aren't into that stuff. I haven't seen it, no. Where can I watch it? Zach Christ says, Hatman, I'm 21, looking to move out of the UK in the next 2 years, been making money online. Is Africa too early to go at my age? Been thinking Thailand, to be honest. I don't know whether it is too early for your age. Thailand is very cheap, and there's loads of Westerners there. It's kind of like a name brand mainstream relocation place where people from the West go. So it might be easier in Thailand. I don't know what their residency or visa situation is like. The visas in Africa are often not very helpful for people that want to stay over the long haul. Like Costa Rica had one of the easiest visa situations in the damn world, bro. You can live on a perpetual tourist visa in Costa Rica pretty much indefinitely. They make it very, very easy. Yeah. So visa on arrival in Costa Rica, if you're coming from UK, United States, and it's 6 months. Can you imagine how many countries in the world give you a visa on arrival for 6 months? That's crazy. You don't need to apply before you come or pay anything. No, just arrive, bam, 6 months. And when you want to renew it, you leave the country and come back the same day, bam, another 6 months. That was one of the great things about Costa Rica. Why I ended up staying there so long is because the visa thing is just so easy. You can just live on a perpetual tourist visa for damn near forever there. Yeah, the same day. Yeah, loads of countries are like that, where you just leave the country and come back the same day, and they stamp you in for another 6 months. I say loads of countries. There used to be quite a few countries where you could do that. Certain countries in the Middle East used to do that. I think they've stopped it now. But when I was in the Middle East, there was a couple countries I lived in where you could do that. You could just, it was a 3-month visa though. Stay 3 months, leave the country for a couple of hours, come back, they give you another 3 months. But yeah, Costa Rica still does that, and they give you 6 months now, never mind 3. Big up Striker. Liam Goff says, I would love to try out Central America for a while. Anthony YouTube says, it's a horror drama. I streamed it, but I'm sure there are streaming sites showing it. Okay. Can I search for it real quick here? I got a couple of streaming sites open on the PlayStation. Let me search for it real quick. Let me just mute this a second so you guys don't hear the annoying sound effects. Let me look on Prime. Is it on Prime? Oh, damn. Start the other controller up. Let's have a look on Prime if it's there. It's called Him. Let's have a look. Bear in mind, Prime is like geo. What's the word that I would use? Geo restricted or whatever. As in, they don't show the same movies in every country, just like Netflix. It's not here on Prime. I don't see it. There is a couple of movies called Him, but it's definitely not the movie you're talking about. One is a comedy. The other one is... What is this? No, this one also is a PG, drama suspense, 2021. I don't think that's it. It doesn't seem like it. Let me try on Netflix. I doubt it's on there. Mike P, you're the propagandist for Keir Starmer, aren't you? Because you were on the other channel defending Keir Starmer. I mean, what's the psychology behind moving for a country such as... I mean, good God, man. You are literally a propagandist for Keir Starmer. The UK has become totally unlivable. For one, I don't like the weather. For two, I don't like the direction it's going in. Digital IDs coming in. They're taxing you for overseas income. I mean, good God, the amount of stuff which is coming in every day in the UK is insane. Then you've got all the hostility towards migrants. Guess what, folks? I'm a migrant. But here we have Mike P, who is literally a propagandist for the Labour government. Incredible. Hey, if you like him, good for you. But don't expect me to like him. And it's not just the Labour government, any damn government. I don't like the direction of travel. Zach Christ says, Mike P, you think the UK isn't deeply corrupt? Also, if you're warning Western income, yeah, exactly. I got an online Western income, move into a developing country. I mean, it's a no-brainer. I can live a much higher standard of living. So where I'm staying right now, I've moved into a different Airbnb where I look for a more long-term place. Bear in mind, the price of an Airbnb is inflated compared to the normal market rate for an equivalent property. Yeah? The first property I was living in was a 2-bedroom bungalow, all modern, everything nice. Obviously, it's an Airbnb, so there's no deposits or anything like that. And that was like £1,400 a month. The one I'm living in now is £900 a month. Swimming pool, 2-bedroom, backup power, all the mod cons, internet included, everything for £900 a month. That's Airbnb. If I go through like get a normal rental through a landlord or a letting agent, it's going to be about half that, about $450 a month. So yeah, Mike P is one of the most bizarre people I've come across. Like a propagandist for the British government. It's incredible, man. In fact, I think he kind of alluded to that he is involved somehow with Labour and politics, and hardly surprising. Indeed, lower standard of living. No. My standard of living is higher here in Africa than it was in London several years ago. My standard of living in Costa Rica was higher. In fact, it's higher even, my standard of living here in Africa is higher still than it was in Costa Rica. Here I've got a 2-bedroom house with a pool for £900 a month. And you're asking me, what is the psychology? What's the psychology of you publicizing a sinking ship? Caping for Keir Starlin. And what is the psychology of you doing that? Incredible. I was watching Nomad Capitalist. You guys know Nomad Capitalist? He's a millionaire businessman and what have you. And he said he's never seen in his lifetime a Western country, a quote-unquote liberal democracy, roll out so many do you want to say libertarian, anti-freedom policies, big brother type policies in such a short space of time as he's seeing right now with Britain. It's incredible, man. Absolutely incredible. I mean, even the whole what do they call it now? Making tax digital? Good God, man. It always amazes me, surprises, amazes, and baffles me when there are certain people who ask me, do you have any plans to move back to the UK? What? Why do so many people ask me that question? I don't get it. Oh my God. Mike P says he's not quite sure what Starmer's supposed to have done wrong. Unbelievable. Mike P, if you want to live in what the UK is clearly headed towards, which is like a mini version of China with social credit scores and all that ridiculous carry on, hey, fill your boots. But some of us don't like that kind of thing. Some of us value our privacy, freedom, not just freedom of speech, lower taxation, small government, not big government. Some of us value all that kind of stuff. You clearly don't. In fact, why don't you go the whole hog and move to China? In fact, why don't you go the whole hog, move to North Korea, since you love all that authoritarian stuff so much? Me, I don't like it. Indeed, Mike P loves digital IDs. He can't see the fundamental implications for human freedom that comes with a thing like digital ID. That's buggy. But hey, look, in China, there are some people who love the social credit system. That's their business, isn't it? It's just the way that Mike P framed his question was just totally bizarre, right? He framed it in such a way as that I was doing something illogical by leaving this, like somebody else said there, this utopian society of the UK. Why would you leave that to go to a country, wrought with corruption? I mean, what on earth is this guy talking about? To live a lower standard? No. My standard of living now is much higher than it was when I was in the UK. It's common sense. If you've got an online income which you can take around the world with you, why would you stay in this extremely expensive country, bad weather, where things are going downhill, it's becoming more authoritarian, they're bringing in digital IDs, they're taxing you up to the eyeballs. I mean, the taxes in the UK were ridiculous, man. Not just the income tax, but then loads of other types of taxes, council tax, all the stuff they charge you for driving your car. It's just ridiculous. Man can't see why anybody would leave. I can't see why anyone would leave. Right, piece says, all about balance. Digital IDs are already a thing in European countries, not necessarily for or against. I'm completely against. Well, there you go. I'm totally against. Not interested in any of that silly nonsense, because I know the road it goes down. Yeah? It's obvious the road it goes down. And thankfully, I'm actually proud of the amount of British people who are pushing back against digital ID. Might be you're obviously some type of collectivist. Well, the rest of Europe's doing it, so what's the problem? I'm not a collectivist. I like the fact that a very large percentage of the British population are saying, we're not having this digital ID. Britain's always been like that to some extent. Britain's always resisted things that they've accepted on a European continent. And that's the good thing about Britain. Yeah, that's the good thing about British culture, is that they do detach themselves from the hive mentality of the European continent. That's when Britain was at its best, that was part of the appeal. Yeah? They resisted the euro. They resisted the metric system. You know, that's always been one of the good things about British culture. That's always been the good things. And Keir Starmer is trying to come in and erase that too. And think of the irony of it, right? Keir Starmer was a human rights lawyer. A human rights lawyer is overseeing and implementing the erosion of human rights in Britain. Unbelievable. Freedom of speech, erosion, right, under Starmer. You will not be able to work in Britain unless you have digital ID. A human rights lawyer is saying that. Mike P, of course, has no problem with it. The incredible irony of that. Yeah, the feeling I had last time I was in Britain is that it is a country which is sinking fast. Fast. It is sinking so fast. Fight Sport Talk says, I'm convinced New Zealand and Australia will push back enough as well. So Mike P, you're basically, in a roundabout way, applauding the European countries for accepting digital ID. That's what you're doing with your last comment. So you are a digital ID fan there, because you're saying many European countries seem a lot more grown up than the UK. Can you believe this guy? Like I told you, move to China, bro. Move to North Korea since you like that kind of thing. Again, I'm kind of proud that there are so many British people of all races, all walks of life, all income brackets, all different professions who are pushing back against this digital ID thing. There's a guy, I'm not sure if you guys have seen him, called the Black Belt Barrister. He's got a big YouTube channel. He's a very, mainstream. He doesn't say anything particularly controversial. He just he does videos about legal stuff since he's a barrister. And he has come out swinging against digital ID. Black Belt Barrister. You guys seen his videos? So if there are people in the legal profession like him, barristers and lawyers, maybe even judges who are against it, and a big enough percentage of the population who are against it, maybe it can be stopped dead in its tracks the same way it was when Blair tried to introduce it. So, yeah, that's one thing I can say about Britain. I'm proud of the resistance that I've seen to digital ID. I'm proud of that. Pickle says, Britain is all I and my ancestors have ever known. Therefore, I feel an affinity to my homeland and a genuine duty to be part of turning this mess around, but I can completely understand you leaving. Yeah, big up Pickles. Indeed, if it's your ancestral homeland and you want to fight for it, I totally get it and totally understand that too. Since it's not my ancestral homeland, I don't feel that same type of affinity and that same type of, bond to the land. But for those who are indigenous to Britain, yeah, totally get it. 100% I totally get it. I was just going to react to somebody's comment there, but they removed the comment for some reason. Oh, there you go. Yeah, Mr. says, is Mike P. Tony Blair in disguise? Might work for a Starmer's press office. Or Blair's press office. Hey, to each their own. You know what I mean? Some people love authoritarian government. Some people are really hive-minded and collectivist. And they don't like the idea of individual liberty. And those people should get together and, do their own thing. I mean, that's what they're doing in certain parts of the world, right? In China with the CCP and all that, North Korea. Some people love all that collectivist, Marxist, communist, so on and so forth stuff. If they like that, that's their business. All I can tell you is I don't like it. And many of you guys clearly don't like it. Triple R says, we would be speaking German if Mike P was Prime Minister during World War II. Well, I always like to remind leftists, and look, I'm not a political person, I'm apolitical. I don't deal with any can't stand politics, all right? I criticize both the right and the left. But for whatever it's worth, I always like to remind people on the left that who are, often identify as socialists. Well, what were the Nazis? They were socialists. Big up Devon. Nazi was an acronym for the German, in the German language, the National Socialist Workers' Party. Nazis. I don't like big government. I want the government to leave me alone. Leave me alone, leave my money alone. I mean, just stay away from me. Just leave me the hell alone. I'll pay for what I use. I'll pay for what I use, the services I use, and I expect good services when I'm paying for them. Other than that, leave me the hell alone. SE Boxing says, big up yourself. Finally caught your live stacks from the Element Group back in the days. Yeah, they did that to me during the global shutdown. When I went to the bank and tried to withdraw my money, they said, what do you need it for? You can't. Yeah, they did it to me during the global shutdown. Can you believe it? Asking you, what are you doing with... It's my money. None of your business what I'm doing with it. Unreal now. The authoritarian road that Britain is going down at this point is so dark, from my perspective. Anyway, obviously Mike P loves it. But from my perspective, it's dark as hell. But it's fitting that Britain is still this like hub for boxing in the world, because Britain is the place that invented Queensberry rules, right? So it's fitting that boxing is still a mainstream sport in Britain and that it's produced all these heavyweights and whatnot. Britain also has been instrumental over centuries, at least domestically, for spreading freedom of speech, so on and so forth, right? I'm not saying everything that Britain spread was great or whatever the case may be, but when it comes to certain things like freedom of speech and certain libertarian values, right? Britain has been instrumental in spreading that kind of thing around the world. So it's fitting that Britain is also saying, and I'm talking about the British people now, not the government, that Britain is also saying no to digital ID. At least a large percentage of people are saying no. We got D-Man. Devon says the UK needs Tate's party, bruv. Tate will make Britain great again. No more brokies. Everyone will have a Bugatti. Yeah, that Tate, what would you call it? Prime Minister speech or whatever, candidate speech. That's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Would I vote for Tate as Prime Minister? Hell no. but it was funny. And that's one thing I can say about the right, not just in the UK, even more so in America, is even though I don't trust any politician, left, right, I don't trust any of these people, Trump, these public figures like Tate, whatever the case may be, on the right, they at least have funny characters. Do you know what I mean? I don't like Trump, his policies and a lot of stuff he's doing, but Trump is literally hilarious, bro. Like, just listening to Trump talk, the uncouth way in which he talks and, you know, communicates and articulates himself is hilarious. So as much as I don't trust or like the stuff that Trump is doing, a lot of the stuff he's doing, that man is at least funny. For some reason on the left, nobody's funny. Why is there no, like, humor on the left? Anybody else notice that? Like, in the whole political realm, not just politicians, but public figures who identify as left as opposed to right, there's nobody funny on the left. All the funny people are on the right. Why is that? Are people on the left too uptight to be funny? Offended by everything? Is that why they don't have a sense of humor? I don't know. Yeah, they've got no bants. They just got no banter at all on the left. It's weird. Yeah, I have to guess it's because they're offended by everything. To have bants, you can't be offended by everything. Star Fox says, I only just found out Tate is half black. I guess you mean half black. Yeah, Tate's half black. Whatever black means. I say that because there are literally different definitions of black, you know. Andrew Tate's dad was a light-skinned black American man. He wouldn't be considered black in Africa. Let me not say in Africa. In most parts of Africa, he wouldn't be considered black. Tate's dad I'm talking about here. But in America, he is. Like Chris Brown, for example. He's two quote-unquote black parents. He wouldn't be considered black in most parts of Africa. Zach Crisis, Hatman, have you seen the Netflix Adolescent series? I haven't, but I'm aware of it. It just seems like egregious anti-male propaganda. You know? There was some politician, I can't remember who it was, who, some British politician who was urging British people to watch it. Was it a Labour politician or Lib Dem politician who was who basically attacked, was it Kemi Badenoch for having not seen it? And the propaganda is crazy. Pickle says, as soon as a left-wing comedian makes some jokes, Gervais, for instance, they're excluded and called far-right. So let me tell you, first of all, Yeah, I'm in Zambia now. I can tell you a couple things I don't like about Zambia. One, well, there's three things I don't like in terms of what I've experienced so far. The first thing I don't like is the power situation, because Zambia has got loads of load shedding. But, you know, if you're somebody that has a reasonable income, you're going to be living in a place that has backup power like myself. So for me, load shedding personally is not an issue. But you might have to look for a while to find somewhere that has these solutions that you need, the backup power and all that. Because the place I was staying previously was actually slightly nicer than this one. But the the solar system and all that was connected to other properties that were owned by the same guy. And so there were more instances of the solar batteries being drained because of people using AC in the other houses and stuff like that. And that would cause a moment, you know, a temporary blackout or whatever. And then you'd have to call the guy that owns the properties, the landlord, to come and send somebody to come and start the generator. Whereas where I'm staying now, it's like a standalone house that's not connected. The power system is not connected to anywhere else. So I don't get any of those issues. But yeah, the power issue in Zambia is annoying. And it's worse in Zambia than maybe most other African countries, or many of them. But, you know, there's a way around all that. Like I say, with the right backup power system. Another thing I don't like is the fact that there's no ocean, because I love being by the ocean. Zambia is a landlocked country. And there was a third thing, but I've forgotten it now. What was the third thing I don't like? Power. Can't have been that important, or else I would have remembered it. The things I like, I love the food here. The quality of the beef. Obviously, they're using they have different breed of cows. But the quality of the beef in this country is some of the best I've ever encountered in my life. I mean, I've literally had the best steak I've ever eaten in my life in Zambia. It's incredible how good the steak is. I got a barbecue out back. I got a couple of T-bones from the supermarket. Flung them on the barbecue, and they're just so tender. Even being barbecued. The taste is amazing. I'm telling you, I'm loving it here. Oh yeah, that was the third thing I don't like. Excuse me, yes, the internet. The internet in Zambia is trash. Yeah, the internet is trash. So those are the three things I don't like. The fact it's landlocked, the power issues, and the internet is absolute trash. The only option really, if you're going to be uploading anything, is Starlink. You have to have Starlink. Otherwise, you're just, you know, up shit's creek without a paddle. Internet in Zambia is definitely trash. Especially coming from Costa Rica, which has good internet. Yeah. Internet in Costa Rica is very solid. You don't need no Starlink in Costa Rica. But Costa Rica is more expensive. Yeah, Zambia is cheaper than Costa Rica. It's all round. Devin says, do you have big lakes or rivers where you can go fishing? Yes, but not near the capital where I'm currently live in Lusaka. There are apparently some small lakes that you can go fishing in. Actually, near me, where I'm staying, it's apparently a little lake where you can go fishing or whatever. I might check it out. And there is a fishing shop at a mall, the closest mall to me. It's like a very well-equipped fishing store that sells reels and rods and all the lures and everything you could possibly need. But the Zambezi River is one of the longest rivers in the world, I think. Yeah, the Zambezi River is in Zambia. That's what Zambia is named after, is the Zambezi River. And they got giant tiger fish. You guys ever seen a tiger fish? Crazy looking fish. Massive teeth. Look up tiger fish, or even Goliath tiger fish. What a scary looking creature. So yeah, I will be heading down to the Zambezi at some point to try my hand at some tiger fishing. SE Boxing says, Hatman, do you eat well done steak? Yeah, normally well done, either medium or well done. Yeah. Previously, I was more so having medium, because I find the steak in the UK to be relatively tough. Even the highest quality stuff you can get in supermarkets and restaurants is relatively tough. So I go with like a medium so it don't end up being too tough. But here in Zambia, the beef is such high quality, whatever flipping cow breed they're using, I'm just getting it well done because it's so succulent and soft, even well done. I'm just having it all well done. Like the steaks I cooked on the barbecue today, I had them well done and it tasted amazing. I put steaks on there with some, what do they call it now? What's the Afrikaan sausage thing called? Forgot the name of it. Any of you guys familiar with like Southern African, like Afrikaans food? There's a sausage that's very, very popular in Southern Africa, particularly South Africa, Zimbabwe, Zambia. God, what do they call it now? Forgot the name of it. Boerewors, thank you. Yes, boerewors. So I put a boerewors on the barbecue as well. That was banging. Along with 2 T-bones. Boerewors. Yeah, boerewors is good. Triple R says, had a medium rare sirloin steak at a restaurant in Skegness at the summer. Was amazing. You got to go eat out for steak and pay extra. The dry home steaks are dead. Well, I've eaten out in the UK plenty of times with steak, and I've never had one that comes close to the steaks I've eaten here. I mean, not even close. It's literally the breed of cow that they're using, or that they have, excuse me. They've got some kind of different cow breeds out here, bro. The steak they produce is just way better than the UK cow breeds. I've had steak at many restaurants and whatnot in the UK, and it's just, yeah, the meat is just not the same as the stuff they have here. And I'd heard this before. I mentioned this on a Patreon upload I did the other day, that I'd seen loads of people claiming that South Africa has got the best steaks in the world. You know, people that have traveled to many different countries, a lot of these like travel YouTubers, and they were saying, I swear down, South Africa has got the best steak you'll ever have in your life. And I used to work with some South African guys, yeah? A couple of quote-unquote colored guys. You know, they have that racial classification in South Africa called colored. There's a couple of colored South African guys and a couple of white South African guys who I used to work with back in the days. And they all used to tell me that the steak in South Africa was just on a totally different level to Britain. And I was like, maybe they're just being patriotic. I'll find out for myself. But if the steak in South Africa is anything like the steak in Zambia, they're absolutely 100% correct, bro. Like, it's incredible here. The quality of the beef here is just phenomenal. And even the milk is different. Like, I had some milk today. One of the girls I'm seeing made mashed potato the other day. Normally she makes something called nshima, which is like a staple thing that they eat here made from maize. But she made mashed potato the other day instead. And, you know, added a bit of milk to it. But there was milk left over. So I like drank the milk, and the milk tastes different. It doesn't taste like the milk in the UK. Like, it's noticeably, it has a different taste. A very, very obviously different taste. Yeah, and the meat has a different taste. Mike P says, say you phoned up LBC with James O'Brien, most of your views will be, I mean, the fact that you watch LBC, most of my views will be dismantled and destroyed. I mean, that is hilarious. You know, at first I thought Mike P was trolling, but now I realize he's just totally gone. He's totally gone. He's an NPC. Man's literally rating James O'Brien on LBC. Unbelievable. I'm talking about Normieville establishment left-wing propagandist. Who the hell listens to good God, man. It's as if man's trolling. You can't be that much of a normie to think that James O'Brien is, I mean, Good God, man. I hope he's trolling. Yo, Anthony YouTube says he's trolling you, bro. I hope he is. But there are actual people like that out there, you know. There are people who are genuinely like that who are out there. See, most people think he's trolling. I hope he's trolling, bro. D-Man says apparently the Angoni cow is indigenous to there. And Hatman, I always remember the milk in Tanzania being so good. Yeah, they're definitely using different kind of cows here, man. And they taste better. That's all I can tell you. It's all fun and games, but the fun and games have to come to an end now. Indeed. In fact, Mister, you might be right. Mike P might actually be Troll Network. Because Troll Network told me that he was involved in politics. And he used to come out with these bizarre, you know, establishment sympathizing comments all the time. So it might actually be him. He's just changed his channel name from Troll Network to, it might actually be him. Like on a level. The D-Man says, shows how much food in the West has been played with. Bill G wants GMO in Zambia. He wants GMO everywhere. I don't necessarily think it's... I don't necessarily think it's a GMO thing. I just think it's literally the breed of cow that they have or the breeds of cows that they have here compared to the West. These breeds are just tastier. I think that's all it is. I don't necessarily think it's like a GMO thing. Got Danny in the chat. Pura vida. Pura vida. Notice I said pura vida. I'm trying not to say pura vida because Spanish people don't pronounce the letter V the way that English speakers do. They pronounce it as like a soft B. So when they say pura vida, that's how they immediately know you're a gringo. If you say pura vida, like Spanish speaking people don't pronounce a V like that. They pronounce it like vida. B. It's almost like a B. It's like a cross between a B and a V. Pura vida. Like that. But yeah, anyway, big up, Danny. Okay, Troll Network still has this channel. Is it possible another channel for Troll Network? I don't know. But these people exist. D-Man says, I know in New Zealand, they breed the cows to output as much milk as possible and put on as much meat. Quality seems to have been sacrificed in the process. All right, that's a possibility, yeah. That the breeds they've created in Britain have been designed for quantity rather than quality. That's a possibility, yeah. Because like I say, the meat here, the beef here tastes much better. It's far more tender. And even the milk tastes different. Like, it's not something you would have to, I wonder if it tastes different. Does it taste this? No, it tastes a lot different. The milk here, cow's milk, compared to milk in the UK. And the beef tastes different. It's better. Chicken and Waffle says, I just can't see someone being that much of a normie. Mike P must be trolling. I hope he is. But I'm not sure. Danny says, yeah, that's right. Argentinians pronounce the V like English speakers, but all other accents pronounce it as a soft B, as you said. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Pura vida. I never got the hang of it. I'm not good with learning languages. Big up David Fisher. He says, any thoughts on Chisora White 3 now being announced by Hay? That was very, very clickbaity by the Stomping Ground. Some of my videos are a bit clickbaity too, but yeah, that was a very clickbaity thing because he never announced it. He just said that he spoke to Derek Chisora and Chisora said that it's going to be Dylan White, but Chisora says a lot of things, you know? Chisora's a trickster. Chisora's probably deliberately muddying the waters, you know? Maybe to use it as a negotiating tactic. I'm glad this stream's going well with no lag or anything like that. Again, I'm not using a VPN. Unfortunately, on my main channel, I can't actually access YouTube Studio with my VPN turned off, but on this channel I can. Maybe because it's not monetized. Again, I had to like refresh. I had to turn the VPN on to actually access the streaming hub, right? Because I was getting some error message that was coming up saying there's unusual traffic. I turned the VPN on, accessed the streaming hub, then turned it off and refreshed the page and started the stream, and it's been fine. So, yeah, looks like I'll be streaming here for the foreseeable. And if I do enough streaming here, this should get monetized as well. SE Boxing says, who knew Mike Tyson's ancestry was Congo, especially why he was so naturally strong and big at a young age growing up? Congolese men were always so physically strong. Well, you know, during the transatlantic slave trade, in the early decades and centuries, most of the slaves were being taken from West Africa. But as the slave trade progressed, it became increasingly difficult to get slaves from West Africa, so they started taking them from Central Africa. And so I think a very high percentage of Black Americans will actually find that their ancestry comes from Congo, Central Africa, maybe even, you know, places like Angola, rather than West Africa. Some of them will trace it to West Africa, but I suspect maybe the largest group in terms of ancestry will be from Central Africa, like Congo. And the Congolese have a reputation for being a bit crazy. And that's definitely been my experience. Not all of them, obviously. But, you know, a fair percentage of them are a bit nuts, a bit crazy, even the women. So, yeah, that fits with Mike Tyson as well, doesn't it? He's a bit out there. How are you guys enjoying the footage? This new night flight footage, you liking it? This was taken with my DJI Osmo Pocket 3. It's a very handy little camera. Chicken and Waffle says, Hatman, if Mike P is not trolling, why is the hence, or I guess he meant the hint of superiority coming from the way he is commentating? He is outsourcing his thinking, but acting like he's smart. Because that's how normies actually are. You know, normies always outsource their thinking. They don't dare think for themselves. You know, it's all outsourced. That's what they think being intelligent is all about. Deferring to some expert somewhere. That's literally what they think being smart is. That's why during the global shutdown, as soon as somebody questioned the narrative, they said, well, what qualifications have you got? Do you know what I mean? As in, how dare you think for yourself? You're supposed to outsource your thinking to some expert somewhere. That's what normies are literally like. A big up Fight News, ATL in the house. He says, Hatman, I'm from America. Do you know of any black Afro-Indigenous people in America before slavery? It's a big topic right now. Yeah, it's a big topic. Here's what I do not believe. I absolutely do not believe that the majority of black Americans are indigenous to the American continent. No way at all. Okay? No way. What I will say, though, is there's plenty of evidence that shows that there were people with, superficially at least, African phenotypes living in America for thousands of years, okay? One of the oldest human remains they've found was in Brazil, and it was of a woman, and when they did the reconstruction, it's clearly of a superficially African phenotype. I say superficially because you see people in the Pacific Islands like Fiji, where's that other place now? Papua New Guinea. They look like black people, right? Black Africans, but genetically they're very different to most modern Africans. They're actually more closely genetically related to like Chinese people and stuff like that, even though they're melanated and they have afro hair and all that business. So yeah, there were people who had dark skin and afro hair in the Americas long before the transatlantic slave trade. But they're not the same people as black Americans. Black Americans, the vast majority of them got there through the transatlantic slave trade. They were not there the whole time. I don't believe that at all. If there are any black Americans today that are descended from quote unquote black people that were living in the Americas prior to slavery, it's going to be a very, very small percentage. Tiny. The vast majority. And one of the reasons I always assert this is because most black Americans, and I've had this debate with people, but they're just ignorant, right? Most black Americans look like people from Central Africa. They're indistinguishable. Yeah? You take most black Americans and plonk them into Congo and they look exactly like the locals. That wouldn't be the case if they've been living on the American continent for thousands of years. Like people from Papua New Guinea, okay, they look like black people, quote unquote, but they also look different. People from Papua New Guinea don't look like typical black people. Do you know what I mean? The features are a little different. The body types are a little different. You can tell they've been living outside of the African continent for a very long time because physically they look different somehow to Africans. Even though they've got some traits that are similar or kind of the same, they also look distinct from black people in Africa, whereas black Americans don't. Obviously, there are some black Americans through admixture that don't look like Africans, right? Chris Brown, somebody mentioned him earlier on. But the majority of black Americans, seriously, they look just like Africans. So, same with Caribbeans. Indeed, Crawford would fit in perfectly. Most black Americans, Deontay Wilder, Terrence Crawford, the Charlotte, you could plunk most of these people into Africa and they're just going to fit right in, especially once they've been under the African sun for a little bit. They're going to be indistinguishable. Mr. says Jimi Hendrix had Cherokee heritage. He may have done, but that's a really overblown thing, you know. In the black American community, people claiming they have like Cherokee heritage or whatever. Some do, but it's going to be a minority who do, and even the ones who actually do, the amount of Cherokee DNA that they've got is so minute, it's barely even worth mentioning. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, 50 Cent looks Congolese. Yeah, Regis Prograis is, what do they call it now? Because there are so many of them in New Orleans, in Louisiana. A Creole. Regis Prograis is Creole. So he's like a mixed person. There's loads of Creole people down there in Louisiana. I do love some chicken and waffle, says Wilder looks more Nigerian than Joshua. Well, Joshua claims he's 1/4 Irish. But his dad don't look half white to me, so I don't know. Maybe his dad was like a mixed race Irish guy, so that would make AJ like an 1/8 Irish or something. I don't know. Well, Tank Davis looks like a South African. Like literally, Tank Davis, if nobody knew him, could go to South Africa and people would think he was a native. He literally looks like a Khoisan South African, Tank Davis, yeah. He's got the stature for it and everything, because South Africans are short. Same here in Zambia. People are so short here in Zambia, bro. That's one of the things that struck me immediately. Like walking around, everyone here is so short. It's crazy. everyone here is so short, bro. The average height for a Zambian man is 5'6". You walk around the mall here, and it's like all the men are midgets. It's so bizarre, bro. They're all like really short and slender. Like most Zambian men are short and slim. You feel like Shaquille O'Neal walking around out here. You know what I mean? How short Zambian men are, man. It's crazy. And there isn't as big a disparity in height between men and women in Zambia as there is in the West. So I think the average height for a Zambian woman might be 5'3", and the average height for a man is 5'6". Whereas in the West, the average height for a woman is like 5'4", and the average height for a man is like 5'10". So there's a much bigger disparity in height in the West between men and women than there is in Zambia. So the women are not that short, like they don't look unusually short in Zambia, but the men look mad short out here. They look crazy short. The women, not so much. The women are still within, kind of the shorter end of the Western height range that you're used to seeing. But the men are really, really short. Yeah, Kyle says it's a Southern African thing. I think it clearly is a Southern African thing in terms of the short stature. Fight News says it's crazy Africa has the most. Yeah, Africa really does have the most diversity. Africa has more genetic diversity than any other continent on the planet. In fact, it has more genetic diversity than the rest of the planet put together. And that is why you get these crazy, differences in height between different populations of black Africans, massive differences in height, in skull shapes, in complexion, so on and so forth. Oh, damn, I'm starting to see some stream health issues here. You guys hearing me okay? For the first time, I'm looking at the dashboard and I'm seeing some frames dropped now and then. Hopefully, there's not too much stuttering. It's gone away now, but there was momentarily some frame stuttering. D-Man says Tanzanians are short too. Okay, Dominic K says hearing me fine. Yeah, I found out that the Khoisan people, who are like the oldest phenotype currently in existence, or genotype currently in existence, they actually originate from East Africa, according to the anthropology and the genealogy. Is the Khoisan, although they've been living in southern Africa for tens of thousands of years, prior to that, they originated in East Africa, which is interesting, isn't it? Because the Khoisan are naturally much more light-skinned than most other black people. And in Tanzania, you find a lot of people who are relatively light-skinned compared to so even they have got that kind of admixture from Khoisan-looking people in deep antiquity. Not as much as in southern Africa, because those types of people have probably been bred out maybe hundreds of years ago or thousands of years ago in Tanzania. But because that's the place that they originated from, you do see a lot more, diversity in skin color in Tanzania than you would see somewhere like Zambia. In Zambia, there's not much diversity in skin color. Pretty much everyone here is dark-skinned. You don't see that many light-skinned. There are some light-skinned people, but not many. Most people you see here, similar to like Uganda, most people here are dark-skinned. SE Boxing says, Hatman, if you was able to have long hair, what style would you have if you could choose, like locks, afro, etc.? Who says I can't have long hair? You trying to say that I've got male pattern baldness? I've been shaving my head since I was a teenager. So I've always preferred to have a low cut or bald head, simply for the fact that in a fight, I don't want anybody grabbing my hair. I always used to think in terms of fighting, So, I'm not really interested in having long hair, to be fair. I want to be battle ready at all times. Carol says locks are too much maintenance. Danny says, have you watched Tucker Carlson's series? No, I haven't. Is it any good, Danny? Do you rate it? Aerodynamic. There you go. Barlet is aerodynamic. Mister says, I do wonder who wrote the Bible. Many different people wrote the Bible over the course of several centuries. It wasn't something which was written by a bunch of people within a short space of time within the life of one person. It was spread out over centuries, the Bible, in terms of the writing of it, the books that were put in there. And of course, there are many versions, The oldest illustrated Bible is the Ethiopian Bible. That's the oldest Bible in existence with illustrations. That one might be from maybe 300 AD, 200, 300 AD, something like that, the Ethiopian Bible. And he says it's 5 episodes deep on YouTube. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure what language the Ethiopian Bible was written in, because bear in mind, Ethiopians speak, what is the language group that Ethiopians, Somalians, the language group is Afro-Asiatic. So the language group that Ethiopians, their languages are part of is Afro-Asiatic languages. Arabic is also Afro-Asiatic. So it's part of the same language group as Ethiopia, Somali. The Somali language, or one of the main language, I think, is called Cushitic. So yeah, it's all part of the Afro-Asiatic language group. Hebrew might also be, at least Paleo-Hebrew. I think Paleo-Hebrew is also an Afro-Asiatic language. So you're talking about Horn of Africa. Danny says, okay, Tucker Carlson thing is very good. Lots of information that was left out of the commission report. D-Man says Aramaic. Well, I don't think... What, is the Ethiopian Bible written in Aramaic? Is that what it is? Wow. I wasn't aware that there was a Bible written in Aramaic. I thought it was written in Greek, because Greek was like the lingua franca since they had an empire and stuff like that. Is the Ethiopian Bible written in Aramaic? Wow. Cal says Somalia is such a broken country, sad stuff. Oh, it's in Ge'ez. Okay. Yeah, Ge'ez, I've heard of that one. Yeah, I know that language. It's written in Ge'ez or Ge'ez, however you pronounce it. I just call it Ge'ez. London style. 110th Specialist says, I think Conor Benn failed PED tests was a turning point for Matchroom. Since then, their reputation took a battering, lost market share, stable collapsed, lost almost all major matchups. Interesting take. I think the rot had set in for Matchroom before that, but that situation definitely didn't help him. Fight News says, yo, real talk, I watch your content because I got entertained, but also I get educated for non-biased perspective. Big up Fight News. I'm glad you appreciate the content. PP says, prime Andrew Golota versus Carlos Takam. God, you guys come up with the most random matchups, but they're always great matchups. Golota versus Takam. That's a tough one, man. I'm going to have to go with Takam, you know. I'm going to go with Takam. In fact, no. Do I go with Golota? I'm going to go with Takam just. Because Takam's more reliable psychologically. Golota was such a nutcase. He was talented, but he was just so mentally unstable. He's probably the most mentally unstable heavyweight I've ever seen in the ring. Perhaps there have been some heavyweights who are more mentally unstable outside the ring than him, and he was mentally unstable outside the ring too. But perhaps there were some people who are worse than him, like Ibeabuchi was more mentally unstable outside the ring than Golota. But in terms of inside the ring, I want to say Golota was the most mentally unstable heavyweight I can think of right now. Even more mentally unstable than Mike Tyson inside the ring. Golota was all the way out there, bro. A space cadet. Indeed, Striker. How does one even predict a Golota fight? Because he sabotaged himself twice against Riddick Bowe. He was beating the stuffing out of Bowe in both fights, particularly the first fight. And somehow he fouled his way out. He fouled his way out of a victory. What a strange character. It's actually strange how, the story behind Golota becoming professional is quite strange. Because although he was an Olympian, he won a bronze medal. Was it in the 92 Olympics? I want to say it's the 92 Olympics. He won a bronze medal. Golota never actually intended to be a professional boxer. Bear in mind, this is right after the fall of the Soviet Union. So a lot of the old Eastern Bloc amateur boxers, even though the Soviet Union had fallen, they still didn't really understand the type of life you could have as a pro boxer. And some of them were still kind of hesitant about the West because there'd been so much anti-West propaganda during the Soviet Union and whatnot. So believe it or not, Golota never intended to become a professional boxer after medaling at the Olympics. And he never intended to leave Poland. But he got into a fight, a bar fight, where he bashed a bunch of guys up, and he was wanted by the police in Poland. So he literally fled to the United States to escape being locked up. And he was working, I think, as a truck driver in Chicago. And he had no intention of boxing, but I guess he lost his truck driver job or something went wrong. And that's when he thought, let me see if I can make some money doing a bit of professional boxing since I got a boxing background in Poland. So he kind of stumbled into a professional career, you know? It was never his plan. Indeed, Dominic A. Galata literally threw low blows in combos. Crazy. Cal says Tex Cobb versus Fisher. Tex Cobb all day. Oh, Tex Cobb all day over Fisher. In my opinion, anyway. Tex Cobb was very, very basic and crude. But he had a very good chin. He could punch a bit. Stick it on you. Over 12 rounds, I got to take Tex Cobb to knock Fisher out. Maybe if it's a very short fight, Fisher might be able to outmaneuver him over 4 or 6. But if it's like a 12-rounder, I got Tex Cobb knocking him out. A striker says, remember the look of sheer panic on Galata's face when Lewis dropped him? Yeah, that was crazy. He literally had the look of shock on his face, pure shock, when Lewis dropped him. That was crazy. PP says, Prime Zhang versus Tommy Morrison. I'm going to go Zhang. Yeah, I'm going to go Zhang. But if Zhang don't get him out of there inside 5, then Morrison wins a decision. It's the Big Bang. I hope one day, in fact, let me not even say that in case they steal my idea. SE Boxer says Lennox Lewis with the dreads was a bad man. Well, when he started growing his locks, that's when he got knocked out first by Oliver McCall. Yeah. He grew his hair out after the Phil Jackson. In fact, he was growing his hair during the Phil Jackson fight, the camp for that fight. And then after the Phil Jackson fight is when he fought Oliver McCall the first time. That's when he had his locks for first had his locks and got knocked out. A lot of fighters would have abandoned the locks, thinking they were bad luck. But he stuck with him and he came good. The striker says, yeah, I'd go with Zhang to stop him. Massive guy, Zhang. 6'6", southpaw, thunder in both hands. It's not like Morrison had a great defense. Okay, he outmaneuvered a ancient George Foreman. Prime Zhang was a bit more sprightly than the version of Foreman that Tommy Morrison outboxed. Dominic Hayes says, Joyce must regret fighting Zhang every other day. Yeah, he should. Kyle says, why don't China have more world-class athletes? Maybe because they're not that focused on those things in China. Maybe they don't really have a culture that pushes the kind of popular sports that most of the world engages in. Do you know what I mean? Because there's plenty of athletic people in China. If you look at those Shaolin monks and all that, they're very athletic and acrobatic and whatnot. I just don't think there's a culture for it, would be my best guess. And also, when it comes to professional sports, in China, they do have a quasi-communist government. I mean, it's officially communist, but if you look at what they actually practice, it's not really communism. It's like it's like capitalism for the rich and communism for the poor. That's what they appear to be doing in China. And maybe they don't want people to be engaging too much in professional sports because it's very individualistic, isn't it? Especially things like boxing. Very individualistic. I mean, boxing is like a symbol of capitalism, really. Yeah? Professional boxing is like a symbol of capitalism. One of the ultimate symbols of it. That you can fight your way from poverty as an individual to riches, fame, and glory through this sport called boxing. Like the ultimate symbol of capitalism. Striker says Morrison has become a little overrated. People remember him as being a lot better than he was. Not saying he was bad, just benefited from rose-tinted nostalgia glasses. Yeah, it's the case for most fighters, to be fair. They tend to be a little overrated as the decades go by because of the rose-tinted glasses effect. It's like the people who say, oh, Usyk would have never survived in the 90s. And I lived through the 90s. Usyk would have been one of the very top guys. He might have been the best in the 90s or the 70s, bro. I don't do the rose-tinted glasses stuff. As great as the 90s era was, I don't go overboard with it like some other old timers do. Danny says Itama versus Chisora would be a good fight, but Frank won't pay Del Boy enough. Danny says a lot of the 70s heavyweights weigh 185 to 200 pounds. That's facts. Yeah, there were heavyweights in the 70s who were under 200 pounds. Muhammad Ali was considered a big heavyweight. He was like 210 to 220 his whole career. I mean, there was a couple of fights where he was maybe in the mid-220s. I think the first Leon Spinks fight, he might have been in the mid or high 220s, but for the most part, he was between 210 and 220. He was considered a big heavyweight. PP says, I like Corey Saunders versus Andy Ruiz, Battle of the Hand Speed. That's a good fight. I'd edge towards Ruiz in that one because Corey Saunders didn't have the best of chins or the greatest of stamina. But tremendous puncher and great hand speed. Maybe he would have had enough to take Ruiz out, you know? Early doors. Maybe. It's a fascinating matchup. Burt Cooper versus Adelaide. PP says, people won't like it, but I see Cooper dropping Adelaide. Well, Cooper gave Evander Holyfield his first count. If he's capable of nearly taking Holyfield out, then I don't think your take is outlandish at all. Indeed. Striker says, I lived through the 90s too. And I remember people at the time saying it was a weak heavyweight era. Go figure. Yep. That's what they were saying at the time. And the very same people who were saying it was a weak era back then are the ones saying that Usyk wouldn't survive in the 90s. It's like they forget the fact that they were trashing the 90s when it was actually taking place. People are funny, man. 1 second, people. I'm just replying to text. Fight News says, Hatman, do you remember when Cooper was going upside Michael Moore's head? Yeah, that was a great fight between Michael Moore and Burt Cooper. Both guys hit the canvas. It was a great heavyweight slugfest. PP says, Ron Lyle versus Tommy Morrison. That's a real good fight. That is a real good fight. Real good. Sound like Ninja Man for a second. That's a real good fight. That's a pick'em, you know. I might edge towards Lyle, but not by much. Morrison could win that fight. Lyle didn't have great stamina. He could punch. He had decent skills, but I'd say Morrison was a bit snappier than Lyle. A bit more athletic than Lyle. But Lyle may be tougher. That's a real good fight. Real good fight. PP says, Joseph Parker versus Michael Dokes, prime for prime. Michael Dokes had fantastic hand speed. Some of the best hand speed I've seen on a heavyweight was Michael Dokes. Yeah, great hand speed. Great combination puncher. And he, in the latter stages of his career, when he had like a big belly, he looked like Uncle Ruckus from the Boondocks. Because he had like cane rolls tied into a ponytail at the back. A ponytail type thing. And just his face and the pot belly. He looked like Uncle Ruckus in the ring. He still had them quick hands. PP says, Cruiserweight Holyfield versus Opatara is a good fight. I reckon interesting style for Holyfield. Yeah, interesting. I would pick Holyfield, though, over Opatara. I would pick Holyfield over Opatara. Yeah. I would pick Holyfield to beat Opatara. Based on the Breeders fights, and I'm not somebody that's ultra critical of Opatara's performances against Breeders. I think he did well. But yeah, I think Holyfield will be a little too much for Opatara, personally, at cruiserweight. But as I've said before, I think Usyk is the greatest cruiserweight of all time, with Holyfield being the number 2. Kyle says Leopai versus Fisher. Man, I'd probably take Leopai over, over Fisher, bro. Leopai could punch. He's tough. And he'd stick it on poor Johnny. Yeah, I'd take Leopai. I mean, Leopai, comparable to Dave Allen, really. In fact, Leopai may be a bit better than Dave Allen. So, actually quite similar to Dave Allen as it goes, Alex Leopai. Maybe didn't have the Dave Allen chin, but yeah, I'd probably take Leopai to knock Johnny Fisher out. Fight News says, I'm telling you, Opatara versus Wardley would be a great war. I don't doubt it. Yeah, I don't doubt it. That's a good fight. PP says, could someone like Michael Moorer have thrived in the current heavyweight scene? I don't think so. Michael Moorer didn't thrive in the 90s. I don't think he could thrive today. He just didn't have the chin for heavyweight boxing. He was a great light heavyweight, but in the heavyweight division, just didn't have the chin for it. He had decent skills. You know, he was very conventional, very textbook, the way that he boxed. But I just don't think he had the chin to have thrived in any of the stronger heavyweight eras. Demon says, Hatman, how's it there for social life in Zambia, and are you eventually going to rent your own place? Well, I'm basically renting an Airbnb now, but yeah, I'm looking for a normal rental property rather than using Airbnb. But because Airbnbs there are so cheap compared to like Britain, I'm willing to do it for now while I look for, like a normal rental place. The social life is cool in Lusaka, What I will say though is, you take precautions. I've never been a naive person. I've always been someone that's on my guard no matter where I go, no matter which social situation I'm in. When I was in the UK, I was always on my guard and whatever. And you have to be on your guard even more so when you come to a developing country and they realize you're from the West. It doesn't matter that you're black. Trust me. Africans do not see black people from the diaspora as their brothers and sisters who they don't give a damn about all that. In fact, a good friend of mine, born and raised in Uganda, still has his Ugandan accent. Dark-skinned guy. Yeah? When he goes back to Uganda to visit, they try to scam him in Uganda. Do you know what I mean? They try to overcharge him because they somehow, I don't know how they know, but they realize that he's spent a load of years in the West and he lives in the West, lives in Britain. And so they treat him like he's rich or something and try to overcharge him and scam him. So, the social situation is fine, but just don't be naive. When people know you're coming from the West, they're going to look at you like some type of ATM. So don't be quick to trust people. In fact, I've gone through pretty much my whole life never really trusting anyone completely. Some people say that's sad, but that's the environment I come from, and that's the way I protect myself. I'm used to it. I don't see it as sad, right? And being that way inclined, it helps me traveling around because I'm not one of these kind of naive, open-hearted people from the West who go to some developing country and think everyone's just going to be well-intentioned. I tend to assume the opposite, that people aren't going to be well-intentioned. And if you come here with that perspective, you'll be fine. Danny says, are there any white people in Lusaka? Of course there are, yeah. In most capital cities in Africa, you're going to find white people. There'll be very few capital cities in Africa where you will not find white people. So you find them in Lusaka, yeah, for sure. Kyle says Dr. Umar would disagree with you about Africa. Would he? There's a guy, a Pan-Africanist, an Afrocentric guy called O'Shea Duke Jackson. Look him up. He's got a couple of big channels. One of his channels is called Ken Ganda. And the other one is called O'Shea Duke Jackson. Over the past couple months, O'Shea Duke Jackson, and this guy's in his 40s, has been talking about how despite the fact he's a black man, dark-skinned black man, he now realizes that Africans will never accept him as one of their own. I'm like, bro, why did it take you 45 years to figure that out? Africa is a land of tribes. They don't care about slavery and all that stuff that black America, they don't give a damn about all that. Africa's a land of tribes. They don't care about the tragic history of slavery. They don't give a damn. And they're not going to embrace you as one of their own, especially if you can't speak the language fluently. You've got a much better chance if you can speak one of the languages fluently and seamlessly. Otherwise, you're going to be seen as a foreigner. PP says, what motivates you to keep creating and sharing your thoughts online? Money, obviously, is one of the main reasons. But also, I like talking. I've always been a motor mouth ever since I was young. I've always been somebody that likes talking. I talk people to death. You know what I mean? So, since I like talking so much, it makes sense that I should be online making money out of talking. Do you know what I mean? Because when I started YouTube, I never realized you could make money on YouTube. I had no idea about monetization or anything like that. So when I started my first channel, I just wanted to talk about boxing. That's it. I was having some debates in comment sections about Rocky Marciano and Mike Tyson. And I was like, to hell with this. Let me just start a channel and start talking about boxing rather than typing in the comments and debating that way. Let me just like make a video. I had no idea that, like I said, I could make any money. I just wanted to talk. PP says, do you fear getting old and potentially losing your mind because you're a very logical person? Imagine getting old and needing other people. I don't expect that to happen to me. I think that people who end up suffering from dementia and whatnot are people that stop learning, stop engaging themselves, engaging mentally. And also who fall into certain routines. And I see this in my parents, particularly my mom. She's fallen into like this routine, the same routine every day. And that is not good for cognitive health. I suspect anyway. That's when you're going to fall into cognitive decline, is when you're doing the same thing every day, day in, day out, year in, year out. You're going to start losing your marbles. You know what I mean? Whereas if you're someone who's always, reading and learning different things, because you're never too old to learn. If you're that way inclined, I suspect you're going to stay mentally sharp for longer. So yeah, it's not something I worry about at all. Yeah, Prime Hatman all the way over Don Charles. Kyle says, no way people think Rocky would beat Mike Tyson. Yeah, that's actually what the debate was. The first debate I got into, that I can remember anyway, in the comment section of some YouTube video, was people claiming that Rocky Marciano would knock Mike Tyson out. I was like, what? And then I started debating with people who were saying Mike Tyson would have been 100-0 if he'd stayed with Kevin Rooney. And it was those debates in comment sections that prompted me to say, you know what, let me just make a video. Let me just start my own channel and make a video. And the rest is history. I never imagined I'd still be doing it all these years later. I never imagined I'd be making money out of it. I just wanted an outlet to be able to talk about boxing. That's it. Danny says, where has Dave Dubois been? He did the interview and vanished. Johnny Nelson, I'm not sure if you saw this, Danny, but Johnny Nelson did an interview the other day. I think it might have been with Boxing King Media. where he said that he spoke to Dave Dubois the other day. They had like a heated argument on the phone where Dave Dubois was cussing him out. So they had like a mad argument, according to Johnny Nelson, on the phone with Dave Dubois. But after they both calmed down and stopped cussing each other out, they came to some kind of understanding, and I think they met up for a meal or something. Johnny Nelson and Dave Dubois. It's quite funny. So Dominic K says it was on Nelson's channel. He might have spoken about it on Boxing, because I don't think I watched the interview I'm thinking about on Johnny Nelson's channel. I think it was on Boxing King Media, but he might have spoken about it on his own channel as well. But check it out, it's quite funny. He said Dave Dubois called him up and started cussing him out over the phone, and he claims he was cussing Dave Dubois back, and they were like arguing. Well, he says Dave Dubois didn't like some of the things that Johnny Nelson said about him, because Johnny Nelson like criticized Dave Dubois for the party and, you know, all that kind of business. And so Dave called him up on smoke. D-Man says we can't super chat it. Nah, because this channel ain't monetized yet. So I need to do more live streams on here to get it monetized, because I barely upload or live stream on here. Now, Tony says, I did a little research after your last live stream, interestingly. That Damazion Van Houten actually shares the same birthday as Muhammad Ali and Usyk. Is it fate? Wow, is that true? That's crazy. January 17th. Wow. I definitely missed that little detail. That's a crazy coincidence. But I'd be amazed if he went on to be as successful as either of those guys, or anywhere close, based upon what I'm seeing of him now. He's a long way off. Danny says, Dave Dubois' laugh is eerie. He's a weird guy, Dave Dubois. Let's just cut straight to the chase. He's very, very weird. The first interview I saw of him, I just thought, wow, this guy's so odd. I think it was on Seconds Out YouTube channel, the first interview of him that I saw. That's right, Star Fox. Dave donated to Johnny's charity. So after cussing each other out, they eventually came to an understanding, and Dave donated to his charity. Sazat says, yes, Hatman, are you planning any more water fasts? Not currently, but I may well do another one at some point, but not currently right now. Oh, did I manage to hook up an Ethernet cable? I've looked at the Starlink router, and it doesn't have an Ethernet cable port. Perhaps the actual Starlink dish itself has an Ethernet cable port, because my own personal Starlink Mini has an Ethernet cable port, but I can't get up to the roof to plug in a port to the Starlink I'm using on the roof. So I could try an Ethernet cable on my own Starlink and see if that helps, on my Starlink Mini. Kylie says, Dave sticking pins in Johnny Nelson's doll. In a Johnny Nelson doll, yeah. Kyle says, this stream has been baby smooth. Yeah, it's because I'm not using the VPN. Unfortunately, on the other channel, I can't literally access the ability to upload or stream without the VPN turned on. I get like a verification message that comes up and blocks me. Whereas on this channel, I can. So yeah, with a VPN turned off, it's fine. But that's the weird thing. I've been using the VPN, the very same VPN in Costa Rica that I'm using now in Zambia. And I never had any issues streaming from Costa Rica at all. So I don't know why. Like I say, my best guess is it's a Starlink thing. Using a VPN with Starlink apparently it causes all sorts of problems as far as upload stability. Danny says, why did you opt for the Mini? The bigger one gives faster speeds. Just because of the portability. Traveling to different countries with the bigger one, just not as practical because I'd prefer to carry it in my hand luggage rather than putting it in checked luggage. And the Mini is just far more portable. You can put it in hand luggage and whatever. And the speeds are not that different, to be honest, because I've tested the bigger Starlink, which is on the roof of where I'm staying, compared the speed to my Starlink Mini. The speeds are not that different. It's slightly different, but it's not like a massive difference. Why do humans find stories of struggle and comeback so compelling? Because they want to be inspired. Yeah, people want to be inspired. So when they see struggle and comeback, they feel motivated. It gives them hope for their own lives and their own aspirations. No, I've never had a near-death experience. Well, it depends what you mean by near-death experience. As in close to death? Or an experience where I could have lost my life, where I was in danger. I've been in danger a few times. But I've never, been on my deathbed. No. Kylie says, speaking of internet connections, did anyone experience that global outage recently? I certainly didn't. Kale says, can't wait till Wardley clips and KO's Parker. He is in on the most overrated run in the heavyweight division. Washed Wilder, old Zhang, jet-lagged Bacoli. Yeah, even with that, I'm still picking Parker. Parker's not an old man. What is he, 32, 33? He holds his shape very well. He's experienced. He's been in there against Andy Ruiz, Carlos Takam, Anthony Joshua, Dylan White, Joe Joyce. And those guys weren't over the hill. Right? He lost to those guys, but still, he gained experience. Fabio Wardley has the youth, although he's not much younger than Parker. He's like 30. But he's fresh. He's tough. He's got that Super Saiyan mode that he goes into, where he just starts unloading. Tell you what, Fabio Wardley, seriously now, must be one of the most ferocious street fighters in the UK. Like, he must be an absolute menace on the cobbles, bro. Like, Fabio Wardley in a street fight is a problem. because you know street fights are usually short, and it's usually someone going into Super Saiyan mode. And Wardley's Super Saiyan mode is no joke. So like in a street fight, Wardley would legit be a menace. But in a boxing match against Parker, I see Parker winning all day. But Wardley's proved me wrong in the past. Maybe he'll do it again here. We'll see. We'll find out Saturday. In fact, let's get a show of hands. Who are you guys picking in the live chat? Joseph Parker or Fabio Wardley, and by what method? Points, KO? Let me know in the chat. Who you guys picking, Wardley or Parker? Kylie says, I'm not writing off Fabio, you know. Got this weird feeling we might be surprised. PP says, are humans naturally moral or is morality learned? I think most human beings have a natural sense of morality. For others, it's learned. I think for the majority, they have some level of natural morality, which is an aspect of the emotion of empathy that comes from empathy, because most people have the ability to empathize, and from that comes some types of morality, or some type of morality. But psychopaths, of course, have no ability to empathize, and so for them, their only concept of morality is what they're taught. So Kyle has got Parker by KO. Danny says Parker. Anant says Parker late KO. Dominic says Parker points. SE says Parker points. Fight News says I would love for Wardley to learn some Holyfield type combinations when he goes Super Saiyan. Team Batman Boxing says edge to Parker, late stoppage, but wouldn't be surprised if Wardley catches him and takes him out. PP says technical stoppage via cuts. But who are you picking, PP? I don't think you mentioned, did you? Who you actually picking? Because me, I'm going Joseph Parker points. He may do it on a late stoppage, but I'm going to say Parker on points. Wardley's going to have to really take it to him. And that's what Wardley does, right? He takes it to people. But he's sloppy when he takes it to you. Fraser Clark at times managed to capitalize on Wardley's sloppiness. But he doesn't have the speed or the athleticism of Parker. You know, so when Wardley started unloading, Clark really couldn't get out of the way. Parker can get out of the way. He can move, he can fire back. So I'm going with Parker. Kyle says Wardley was looking sorry for himself during the Hooney fight. I agree. I think he was looking very sorry for himself. He was getting totally outboxed. Dominic K says Wardley's nose bridge opens up easily. Yeah, it does. PP says Doctor will stop it. But who, though? You still haven't told me who you think is going to win. Doctor will stop it in whose favor? Have I ever been in love? Yes. PP says, why do humans create moral rules around sex if it's a natural instinct? Because of the conflict that can come from sexual activity. particularly the conflict between men over a woman. This is why morality around sex was created. Because men will kill each other, massacre other men over a woman. So morality was introduced around sex to stop the conflict, the fighting that men were doing over women. Kale says, Hooney is perfect preparation for Parker. To be fair, that experience could stand him in good stead. I agree with that. But Hooney doesn't have the power that Parker has. Not that Parker's a massive puncher, but he hits a lot harder than Hooney. I mean, if Hooney had any sort of power at all, Wardley would have got stopped. Kyle says experience of getting beat up. Even the experience of getting beat up can be helpful sometimes, you know, because he got beat up and still won. Striker says, I got Parker, but starting to second guess for some reason. I think a lot of times we start to overanalyze the closer it gets to a fight and question our picks. I think most of us have done that over the years. Start overanalyzing. Okay, PP says Parker wins, Doctor stops it. All right. Henry says, Hatman, do you reckon it's a good time to get the majority of your money out of a UK bank? I'm no financial expert here, okay? Bear that in mind. But in my opinion, yes. Dominic A says, I listened to MOP Warriors today and dealt with 4 plates bench. There you go. I take it you mean the whole album, not just the song. There's an R&B song on the album, which is unfortunate, which I just removed from the album. Yeah, because everything's digital now, right? I just delete that track. The R&B track, which is like track 2 or something, just delete it and listen to the rest of the album. Okay, so it was the album. P Pieces, have you ever had any bad addictions in your life? Women, gambling, food? No, never. I don't have an addictive personality. In fact, my personality is somewhat the opposite to that, where I tend to get bored of things quickly rather than addicted. Kyle says, Hatman, why do you hate R&B so much? Well, to clarify, I don't like R&B post-80s. Everything up to the 80s I'm cool with. But 90s R&B onwards is just not for me. It's too, I don't know, man. I don't like the sound. I don't like the image. It's not as soulful as like 70s and 80s R&B, I find. So yeah, I just don't like it. Anant says, has Eddie Hearn become insufferable lately? Too much bluster without delivering good shows. I think he's lost a little bit of his charisma, maybe. You know, his heyday with the Coogan Cassius interviews back in the days. He's not the same Eddie Hearn as back then. I think he's become a bit more ruthless now. And that's an aspect of no longer being the top promoter, you know? Danny says, I'm liking Eddie's confrontations with Dana. Yeah, they're quite tame, though, at the moment. Dana's really more bullish on it than Eddie Hearn is. Eddie Hearn keeps saying, I respect Dana tremendously, and he's great, and he's amazing, but I'm not going to let, you know what I mean? Like, Eddie still seems like he doesn't really want that smoke. Star Fox says everything after the 90s was the cutoff for me. Yeah, me, I didn't like 90s R&B at all. For me, it just had no soul to it. No soul. Everything pre-90s was real R&B, because R&B stands for rhythm and blues. What is blues? Blues is people singing about pain. In the 90s, these R&B singers are just singing about relationships while they're sitting in some giant mansion and driving luxury cars. How much pain can you really be experiencing as a man? Living in mansions and having luxury cars and being rich and having loads of groupies, and you're talking about pain from a relationship. What you, No, I can't relate to that. Whereas Motown R&B, a lot of those artists had been through real stuff, you know, come from bone grinding poverty, addictions. Some of them have been involved in crime, all sorts of tragedy in their life. And so when they sang, you could feel the pain, the real pain. You know what I mean? You could feel the soul in their voice. Like, think about a track like Across 110th Street. Think about that compared to 90s R&B. Do you know what I mean? It's night and day. Think about even Marvin Gaye's music compared to 90s R&B. It's night and day. There was real soul. And also the production. I much prefer the production of like Motown R&B compared to 90s R&B, where they were more dealing with live bands and, or, you know, actual live musicians, should I say, rather than programmed beats like hip hop music. So, yeah, Marvin Gaye, you know, oh, mercy, mercy me. All things ain't what they used to be, no. That's R&B. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Star Fox says, I swear MOP had a bar about rappers and R&B artists wearing do-rags or something. Yeah, because Striker says 110th Street, is that the song from Jackie Brown? Yeah, it's in Jackie Brown. Yeah, that's right. That song came out in the 1960s, I want to say, but yeah, they used it in the movie Jackie Brown. That's right. Across 110th Street, pimps trying to find a woman that's weak. Across 110th Street, pushers won't let a junkie go free. Whoa, across 110th Street. That's the one. I was the third brother of five, doing whatever I had to do to survive. I'm not saying what I did was alright, but trying to get out of the ghetto was a day-to-day fight. Being down so long, I started to lose my mind. I knew there was a better way of life, and I was just trying to find. You don't know what you do until you're put under pressure. Across 110th Street is a hell of a tester. Across 110th Street, pimps trying to find a woman that's weak. Across 110th Street, pushers won't let a junkie go free. Whoa. That's soul right there. You know, they don't make R&B like that post 1980s. They just don't. If they did, I'd still like it. I mean, the odd artist here and there does. So, for example, Anthony Hamilton has this old school Motown style. One of my favorite Anthony Hamilton songs, or my favorite Anthony Hamilton song, since people might know it from a movie, was featured in the movie American Gangster. And it's just about a woman, right, who he's not sure whether she likes him or not. But I just like the style that it's sung in, and I like the quality of his voice. It's very 1960s, 1970s Motown type voice. Star Fox says, Tyrese manufactures his own pain to sing about what more do you want from me? Yeah, see, that's one of the main differences between like 70s Motown R&B and 90s R&B, is that 70s and 60s R&B singers were like, can I say alpha males, a lot of them? Whereas, and they had a very masculine image. Whereas in the 90s, all the R&B singers pretty much were sweet boys. Sweet boy image, sweet boy singing style, sweet boy lyrics. You know, it's just all sweet boy stuff. And I've never been a sweet boy. In the words of Kano, girls like me, but I ain't a sweet boy. So, boy, don't think you can move to me and think I'll be your sleep boy, because I'm on my P's and Q's. That's why I make more P's than U's. Even when I'm in 3s and 2s. Slip, there ain't no reason to. Kyle says, genuine. Yeah, there you go. That's the sweet boy image. Danny says, any dates tonight? No, not tonight. It's like 2 a.m. here. It's an hour ahead of the UK, Zambia, so it's not much difference in terms of time, but no dates tonight. Could have gone on one, but it's somebody that I already went on a date with, and she seemed a bit weird. I'm not sure if I'll go on a date with her again. She seemed a little odd. I don't know why. Is she engaging in juju? Because that's something, you know, that's a lot more prevalent here, is people engaging in witchcraft. It's like Harry Potter out here, bro. A lot of these young ladies apparently tried to use like love magic. People engaging in all kinds of juju and witchcraft. So watch out. See, in Africa, witchcraft is so common that it's literally something you have to factor into your day-to-day interactions because it's that common. Cal says, my grandma does juju. A lot of people do, man. A lot of people here in Africa do juju, do witchcraft. It's, when you speak to an African person about witchcraft, they don't look at you strangely. They're like, oh yeah. A lot of people do it here. It's, common thing. From, the people at the very top of society all the way down to the bottom of society, loads of people are engaging in it. And it says, how did the Stormzy Dylan White beef start? Because Stormzy was backing AJ in the Dylan White fight. I think that's all it was about. And Dylan White took offense to it because Stormzy's from South London and Dylan's from South London. And he's like, why are you backing the Watford boy? You should be backing me. You know that? And then Dylan said he would slap Stormzy or something or another. Yeah. We got a guy calling himself Ade Oladipo. There's them old interviews of White on IFL legendary. Yeah, a lot of the older IFL interviews were legendary. That's right. Kylie, Stormzy walked AJ out with a diss track. That's the only Stormzy track I ever liked. Literally ever. Was Shut Up. And even then, I only liked a few of the first few bars and the beat. But other than that, I've never liked another Stormzy track. There's something corny about Stormzy. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what it is. He's just something corny about his style and his whole energy. Just is corny somehow. Kyle says his voice is horrible. Yeah, his voice and just there's just something corny there. He's not like Kano. He's not like Getz. He's not like some of the other kings of grime, even Wiley, you know? None of them guys were corny, at least not to me. But with Stormzy, there's just something corny about him. I don't know what it is. Afro Soul says, I agree. Yeah. Ade says, White is being linked to fight Chisora in December if you haven't mentioned that yet. Yeah, I think I mentioned it earlier on. That's coming from David Hay, but who knows whether it's the case. It could be Chisora just muddying the waters. We'll see, I guess. I mean, you know, as somebody who's been shaving my head since the 90s, I've never really understood the whole hair transplant thing because I've been like happily bald since I was a teenager. I didn't go bald. I just started shaving my head and preferred it this way. Why are some people so worried about having a bald head in this day and age? Do you know what I mean? It's not like the 70s. Bald heads are normal now, so I don't know. As someone who's been voluntarily shaving my head for all this time, I don't see why people are so scared of having a bald head. Is it that bad? Danny says a haircut can transform you. Yeah, but it may be able to do that. But what I'm saying is if someone's going bald, why not just shave your head and just move on? Like, why is that such a bad thing? I don't get it. XMB says, I think it depends on the person. Some people pull off bald well, others don't. Yeah, maybe. Ade says, since your teens, did Tupac make it cool to have? I was never a fan of Tupac. XMB says, I got a very circular shaped head, so I don't know if bald would be a good look on me. Somebody did say that if you're a skinny guy, bald don't look as good, and that's probably true. If you're like really skinny and bald, it's going to look a little off. So for example, imagine if Snoop Dogg was bald. That would probably look crazy. A bald Snoop Dogg. Whereas if you're like a more, muscular guy or just more heavy set guy, being bald probably works better. But if you're like a skinny guy with a bald head, it probably looks a bit weird, innit? Yeah, bald Snoop Dogg would be wild. Afro Soul says, by the way, speaking of the Ghanaian flat head shape thing, in my tribe, they shape our heads that way when we're infants. They think that's what looks good. Yeah, an ex-girlfriend of mine from Uganda, and in fact, maybe the Sierra Leonean ex-girlfriend I had as well said the same thing. They were terrified of their child having a flat head back. Neither of them had a child at the time, but their future children having a flat head back. So they were saying, no, you must never lay a child on a hard surface on its back because they end up with a flat head. And when you bathe them, you must like cup the back of their head so the head ends up nice and round, not that horrible flat head like so many Ghanaians have. Yeah, like Chinese, a lot of Chinese have got flat head backs as well. That's right, yes. Kylie says, man would look like a Sphinx cat. I guess he's talking about Snoop Dogg. A bald Snoop Dogg. Yeah, he'd look wild with a bald head. Crazy. Star Fox says, it would probably look better than Snoop Lion with dreads. Yeah. What was that Snoop Lion thing all about? Was that some kind of gimmick to, I don't know, get views, and was it a publicity stunt? I don't know what the Snoop Lion thing was about. And it says, Hatman, have you ever been recognized because of your voice? Only by friends. So friends of mine who I didn't tell about my YouTube channel, I got a couple phone calls of them saying, I never knew you had a YouTube channel. Then they start playing my video in the background. I'm like, oh my gosh. So yeah, only by friends. All right, peeps, gonna shut this one down. So fasten your seat belts. Position your seats in an upright, put your seats in an upright position. Stow away your meal tray, whatever they call it, and prepare for landing. Shout out to everyone for joining in the conversation, hanging out with me for a bit. It's always good. Until next time, take care, be good. Catch you on the other side. And yes, I will be streaming more here now, since the streams on this channel are silky smooth. I want to stream here until I get monetized. The fact that I can't stream on the other channel without the VPN being on, and the VPN just messes up the connection, is basically forcing me to get this other channel monetized. So it is what it is. Maybe it's my daemon, my ancestors, the gods, whatever, pushing me in this direction. The universe, right? Reminding me, no, you need to get that second channel monetized. Whatever. Anyway, yeah. Big up everyone for joining in the conversation. I'll catch you on the next one. I'm out.